every individual in a family is different and unique. But a good family is also unified. They share common beliefs and work towards common goals. According to the Bible, the first man was Adam, and he is the father of all human beings. And he was created by his father, who was a spirit, not a human. Jehovah God, at the beginning, as the Bible calls it, created the first man, Adam. And Adam was the son of God. And so there was a unified family at the beginning of mankind. And the children of Adam were supposed to have remained part of that united family. And Adam and Eve listened to the voice of Jehovah, their spiritual father, and there was happiness and unity in the original paradise on earth. That is until Eve listened to the voice of a stranger. And that stranger led Adam and Eve away from God, and that family was divided. The Bible says that Jesus later came to the earth to save the world, because God, who sent him, loved the world. Jesus described himself as the shepherd, and he described human beings as sheep in a figurative illustration to paint the picture of the relationship between Jesus and human beings. And he described there being one flock and therefore unity. That is what Jesus wanted. And the one who sent him, Jehovah, wanted that unity. And so Jesus talks about shepherd and sheep, and he mentions that those sheep are in a sheepfold and a flock, and there being one flock. But he also mentions strangers. And he says that those strangers are thieves and plunderers because they steal the sheep. They take the sheep off Jesus and lead them away, out of the flock. And Jesus also mentions the hired man who abandons the sheep to an attacking wolf. And because of the attacks of the wolf, which is a figurative expression, could even include any danger, any test that comes upon the sheep, which the hired man doesn't have the courage to face, and then he abandons the sheep. Because of that, the sheep are scattered and they become divided. And so the unity that Jesus wanted becomes ruined by those strangers, thieves and plunderers, and the sheep become divided up and drawn away to others. Now let's read what Jesus said in John chapter 10. We're going to read from verse 1 to 16. These are the words of Jesus. Most truly I say to you, the one who does not enter into the sheepfold through the door, but climbs in by another way, that one is a thief and a plunderer. But the one who enters through the door is the shepherd of the sheep. The doorkeeper opens to this one, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought all his own out, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him, because they know his voice. They will by no means follow a stranger, but will flee from him, because they do not know the voice of strangers. Jesus spoke this comparison to them, but they did not understand what he was saying to them. So Jesus said again, most truly I say to you, I am the door for the sheep. All those who have come in place of me are thieves and plunderers, but the sheep have not listened to them. I am the door. Whoever enters through me will be saved, and that one will go in and out and find pasturage. The thief does not come unless it is to steal and slay and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it in abundance. I am the fine shepherd. The fine shepherd surrenders his soul in behalf of the sheep. The hired man, who is not a shepherd, and to whom the sheep do not belong, sees the wolf coming and abandons the sheep and flees. And the wolf snatches them and scatters them, because he is a hired man and does not care for the sheep. I am the fine shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. And I surrender my soul in behalf of the sheep. And I have other sheep which are not of this fold. Those too I must bring in, and they will listen to my voice, and they will become one flock, one shepherd. So Jesus wanted the unity of mankind, and he wanted his sheep to be united as one flock. But he mentions strangers, thieves, wolves, and a hired man that fails to protect the sheep. And because of those, mankind is divided and drawn away from Jesus. Now these strangers can include religious people and religions, politicians and political ideologies, business leaders, or anyone who tries to draw people to himself or his own ideology and away from Jesus and the God that sent him, Jehovah. And the consequences of these strangers who try to draw people to themselves is division, arguments, and in some cases even violence amongst mankind. But Jesus is described as the Prince of Peace. He wants there to be one shepherd and one flock, a united family of mankind. So Jesus tells us what he's going to do in Matthew chapter 25. Verses 31 and onwards. Jesus said, "When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then he will sit down on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate people one from another, just as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will put the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on his left." Verse 46 says, "These will depart into everlasting cutting off, but the righteous ones into everlasting life." The goats who allowed themselves to be divided from Jesus' sheep will be destroyed in the war of Armageddon. But what about Jesus' sheep, who he describes as the righteous ones? Verse 34 says, "Then the king will say to those on his right, 'Come, you who have been blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the founding of the world.'" The united sheep will inherit Jehovah's kingdom.